human energetic intelligence is the first step, because that's all about awareness. It's all about our conscious awareness, what energy means. So it's not about creating, destroying, it's about converting. The next, we are as a converters of the energy, whether we are better at doing this or not that good. And the next is, if we in organizations or societies or cities are willing to achieve a transformation, we can achieve an improvement, which means we certainly need to look for these barriers that are draining the energy, the resistance, the thoughts that are currently holding people back from the change, and also these more masquerading things. And those can be, there can be people that are mixing both of these together. But then generally I've seen the evidence that there could be either or, but in reality there could be, if the people stay with their resistance for long enough, then it just accumulates and they're creating this mask that is requiring more and more energy to be used for that. And therefore transformation cannot happen. So first of all, if people are having these resisting thoughts, they are not doing or not changing and not willing to be changed with these thoughts. And the second is, if people don't want to lose their job, they just wear the mask. And that means naturally the transformation is not happening. And also the people wasting their energies. And what do we have as a result? We have burnouts. People just burn out. Not because they're overloaded with the actual practical fulfilling tasks. I would hypothesize most of the burnouts are just because people are spending too much of their energy on wearing their masks. And imagine if that daily job requires interaction with your boss. And every single time the boss is asking, how do you like this new ERP system? And you say, oh yeah, it's good. It's going well. But actually you're lying to yourself and you're lying to your management. And every single time this builds up, and that requires more and more energy, you come to the work with 100% of your energy. And then it naturally goes, every interaction where you have to lie to yourself, lie to the others, you wear your mask, your energy just drops and drops and drops. And then you start also going to the mental models of, why I'm doing this? Is there a better way to live? And it drains even more. So that's one of the things that we could possibly directly relate. Poor understanding of energies and energy intelligence, and poor understanding how that links to the human change and transformation in the organizations, in the societies, into your lives, into everyday lives, that oftentimes really leads to not only temporary dissatisfaction, but it can also lead to a bigger damage that people can do to themselves. So therefore, I'm proposing this perspective, explaining the basics of energies, and there are different kinds of energies, and then understanding there could be even more that we possibly are not consciously aware yet, but scientists in quantum fields and quantum field theory and unified theory is getting there to have more understanding. And I would say this next 10 years, this decade, will be really possibly bringing in a bigger shift in how we see the world. Like 400 years, people were looking at the Earth as being flat, but that was flipped, and that perception is gone. But those who were speaking about it to be round were perceived as to be outliers and liars, those kind of things. And the same a few hundred years ago about Earth not to being in the center of solar system. And I feel from what I see, the physicists are now discovering into this consciousness, physics of the consciousness, and this unified field, the smallest particles, and getting down to vibrations, to the flows and the fields of energies. It might be that there will be more discoveries proving that our perceptions are limited, but we have more and more tools evidencing the richness of the energies and how our consciousness is actually able to grasp that and possibly develop our consciousnesses or actually access to the consciousness. The other topic that I recently really became curious about is that if the materialistic perspective speaks that our consciousness is produced by the brain, and that has been the paradigm for a long time. And then they really are the counterparts, because the biochemical signals and circuitries and all of the neurons, they are corresponding with our experience with the world. But presumption that this is brain is first and then it generates the consciousness is a big question mark, because why we cannot have the understanding that the small kid has a less developed biochemistry in the brain. That's why the kid has less access to the consciousness that is available. And the more the biological instrument, which is brain in this case, is developing, the more it enables us to access the consciousness. So therefore, by our self-development, biochemically, we have actually more abilities to sense these frequencies, sense these vibrations, sense these energy fields around us. So I believe that there will be more discoveries in this area, and that would be making this first integral part of the transformation even richer to understand how that can inform us in our relationship with the reality, in our relationship with ourselves, to be performers, to be better performers, to be better transformers of the energies for ourselves, for our companies, for our societies, and for our cities. And if we come back to this, it's not all of this is published. So the newcomers to this 8 integral parts is exactly here. Energetic intelligence, it joined recently. Transformation gene as well. And what was the third? The neuroscience is actually my hope, that to get more connected to the transformation directly, not just by the observational science, but really about how the neuron circuits would be representing our behaviors or our choices, our experiences into the neurocircuitry. So therefore, I haven't scientifically published anything yet here. Anything here, we have some papers that are introducing the concept and explaining about the transformation gene, what it is and how does it play out. So therefore, the answer is, I have very recent introduction of this topic to my work. I included to the integral parts because of the very fundamental understanding is, if we speak about transformation, human behavioral, attitudinal transformation, when I speak about internally becoming a different person in a specific question or a specific task or a specific way of living, the energy component is essential. It cannot be otherwise. So if we are not understanding our relationship with energies, if we are not mentally understanding what the energy means, for example, delusion that we can create it, if people maintain this mental model that they are creating energy, it's false by default, and therefore they might be trapped on their journey to improve their lives. So therefore, clarification of the basics for the energy intelligence has to be integral component. And this is how far I am, by getting it into the bigger picture of the transformation, by emphasizing the essential necessity to have it there. The question is valid when the science will prove that. And certainly, as a scientist, I can say we can do the experiment. We can run basic scientific studies in companies. And of course, I would be looking for advanced technology to be used if possible, like how the people would, how we would be able to read the energies. I'm not expert in that. I would love other scientists, experts, in those who are studying human energy and how the human energy is consumed, regenerated, physical, mental, holistic. And then we would be able, possibly, by these measurements and tracking how people are managing their energy, so how the energy flows, even on the biological level, are happening, and then map them with their brain function, or whether how the brains are projecting, whether they are in a good state of flow and producing results, or they are into the inner conflict. And then we can also have the third tool of the scientific method, which is observation or the questionnaires, and actually ask people how do they actually experience the world in that time. I would be very much liking to be part of that kind of a scientific study. I haven't seen anyone doing this, but I would love to really be getting the scientific validation of the degrees of how the awareness and how the experience with the energies is correlating with the state of well-being and with the state of performance, if we speak about organizational setting. I started as a technology designer for amplifying human change, which means technology designed to help people change, organizational setting, city scale and urban scale. I was doing it very successfully, and I was happy about all of these observations, but there was one thing missing in my equation. And I realized that over the last year or so, and I thought, oh, if we are designing technologies, we are giving instructions how they should work, how they should give feedback for the users at the different scales, on the individual, on the collective. And if we are not giving precise instructions of what actually works for human change, we are not aiming, or we are not able to actually help them, because we are just not properly designing, because the requirements are not well understood. So therefore, I reverted the attention, instead of putting what we know from the previous science into the technology, but actually re-questioning what it actually takes for the person to sustain the change, which means the transformation. So in terms of technology, that was even when I started to give the first impression of what kind of technology can be used. Today, my best imagined study design would be specifically around organizational setting, because if we human beings, we fulfill our day with some kind of work. Of course, we need to sleep, which is no doubt, and there are plenty of technologies that are helping with that. Eating, of course, plenty of technology doing that. Maybe balancing between the rest and the activities. But what area I think is unexplored in the connection with how technologies can measure our performance from the neuropsychology is the actual tasks, actual work. Then usually it comes down to the managerial terminology, which is KPI or sales or quota or what's your target. And there isn't, up to date, at least to my knowledge, a design that would tie in the performance of the person with the energy states or energy, let's say, management that people can do at their organizational or work setting. So I would imagine, so you arrive to your work, you're, first of all, if you have the desk, like a place, there would be smart sensors, and that not only measure your vitals, like your blood pressure, your maybe other temperature, these are different kind of things, but possibly technologies that would be able to sense your vibrations or your interaction with the energy fields. Because we have technology that specifically target a particular measurement that we have been using over the years. But what I'm suspecting, there is something about the energies that we are not capturing yet. And therefore, I would say there would be the space which captures how you interact with the energy fields, maybe with the electromagnetic field. I don't know that. I'm not an expert, but that would be my way to holistically see what's happening with the person in the workplace, and then the energy interactions that we could possibly measure as a person interacts with the invisible energy fields around, and also directly what are the biological basic measurements saying about the energy level. And then would be possibilities to pick the measurements from for the performance. And those would be how people are performing with their daily tasks. And if the people are using computer, there are plenty of ways that you can use camera to detect concentration. There is possible to typing speed. There could be possible basic, very like for the log files of the system, you can get a lot of performance related indicators. And that would be my best, like first idea for the scientific study. We are correlating the measurements of the biochemical energies and also maybe observable how the energies are coming out of the person, like heat as well. It could be indicator. And then correlating with the performance of the tasks on the computer and maybe the facial, like tiredness and reaction time, all those kind of things. It's not only to give the advice for the person detecting the state of the energy state or the energy saturation or the accessibility, but really correlating that with performance and then plugging in some attitudinal factors, some biases. There is no currently a direct way to correlate, but you can always use the basic scientific method, which would be, for example, in the same system they are using on a screen, they would be basic, quick questionnaire, like a pop-up questionnaire, and like with the 2-3 questions, or even like the more fancier or easier ways, you can put like a two-dimensional question, and there are 4 quadrants, and you need to drag yourself depending on the 2 variables that are on the axis, and you quickly just do this, and that's at least gives the sense of what is happening or what is the perceived energy levels that we cannot capture otherwise, but we need to have into this correlation. And we also want one practical thing for this scientific study. We need to catch the liar. Because we know our brains are smart. and and we are trying to wear the mask, right? That we discussed earlier. So therefore, there should be a smart, intelligent, scientific ways that we are actually capturing the liar and therefore correlating the energy states with the states of whether the people are truthful, honest, energetic, fulfilled, happy, or they are miserable, painful job that they are doing. So that would be another relationship which would be very important to study, and I would be really, really up for doing that. If we survey a number of people, like let's say 1,000, and construct a very basic questionnaire asking how do they experience energies, and whether they, for example, feel more energy in the morning, and what do they do to get more energy, they would respond with a perception that they can create it. So they say, oh, when I have a healthy meal, when I go to the gym, it creates the energy for me. Essentially, why this is not good to think this way is because then people also, with the help of the liar, the internal liar, they get into the routines which are actually unhealthy. So for example, some people figure out, oh, coffee gives me energy. What people start doing, they start to drink more coffee. Or some people come up with their explanation, oh, for the good energy, I need to go for a smoke with other people, and this is how I always come back and feel like more energized. And therefore, instead of, and this is again, it's a very basic thing. So we're coming back to the first pod. So here, people have the blue pen which says, I create energy. So I create. And this is, I'm not creating energy. And it has to be shifted. Or the other way to say it, the actual way, the thought that would be more appropriate, I am converting energy. I am transforming energy. And if people take the perspective of transforming the energy, they really are not anymore thinking about how much energy they have. because it's not about what do you have, it's about what do you convert. And then if we speak about computer science, in the computer science language, you become an algorithm, or you will perceive yourself as an algorithm converting energies. And your output of the algorithm depends on the algorithm efficiency, all the structure, all the conditions, everything. And you can always internally tweak one part of your algorithm, which means you could see it in your behavior. You're tweaking your behavior, but then instead of you being the accumulator, you are the transformer. And I think that frees up people from the unnecessary delusions into, oh, for me to start the day, I need to have the coffee, I need to get this, I need to get that, and then I get the energy, and then I will use that energy up until lunch. No, it's not the way how it works. You have the access to everything you need, possibly, and then you also create on top of that something maybe unnecessary. But that's the biggest shift, why I'm emphasizing that mental model of creating energy is giving the picture of you being accumulator, which is not true. And living in the perspective that you are transforming and you are the algorithm. And that means you can, anytime you can improve your performance by tweaking your algorithm instead of looking for external energies to be kind of acquired by you. No, you have all the access to these energies. It's just a question, what do you do with them? And this is all your algorithm, and it determines your success of the output. Input, energy, output, result, and you're the algorithm. So today, the first pod before was about transformation gene. Today we covered human energetic intelligence, so it's about how we master the different kind of energies, internal, external, and becoming the more aware that we cannot create or cannot destroy energies, but we are transforming the energies from one form to another. It's about how efficient we are in doing that. Transformation gene that we covered previously was about the essential knowledge that everyone has, innate understanding what transformation means, biologically and also mentally. It's just a question, do we have we silenced the gene and we say I cannot do it, or we say I can do it, and then we access this transformation power within. In the next pod we will speak about typology of change. That's about 3 types of change: transaction, transition, transformation. So we will be getting clearer to understand that changes are not always the same, and also that awareness and that conscious clarity is helping to design transformation for your own life and for the organizations in future. And then further we will go into the vectoral transformation, neuroscience, and artificial intelligence. We'll be arriving to this segment soon. And then social influence later as the most powerful source of motivation instead of rewards and punishments, which have been overused and are very limited. And then technology as an amplifier, with the examples how the whole transformation science can be used and amplified by technologies, and experience design as the technologies using this understanding about all of the previous components to plug into giving a fresh user experience for the people using transforming technologies in their lives to improve how they live, to improve their happiness, well-being, flourishing, and then scaling it up, because through the social fabric, through nature, we are naturally signaling everything to other people, just like with the transformation gene. When you see a person who is confident, who is about making any change in their life they want, you feel it. The gene is activated and it's working. In the same way, it happens with all of the other revelation. So for example, if we speak about and conclude with the human energetic intelligence, if we come to meet a person who is mastering energies internally and externally, we can sense it immediately because the person has access to something more that we have. And this is how the genes are actually speaking to each other, even without us really comprehending in the beginning. But as we acknowledge that we have the wisdom from our evolution, biological evolution, and our body is signaling through the instincts, through the different kind of hints, that gives us the realization and actually ability to transmit anything that we achieve. We can naturally signaling and mirroring to the other people, which is a great component of our evolution as the social actors in this world. So if there are no more questions in this pod, I would then like to conclude and invite everyone to join the next pod, second Tuesday of July, same time, and see you then.